hear me?
Yes.
Welcome. I'm Darlene Gregoire, and I'll be your moderator for tonight's Richford Town Meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and if everybody could stand, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to start with the town portion of the meeting. The legal voters of the town of Richford, Vermont are hereby warned and notified to meet at the Richford Town Hall in said town on Monday, March 5th, 2018 at 7:00 p.m. to transact the following business. All articles pertaining to the election of officers and monetary issues relating to expenditures will be voted on by Australian ballot at the Richford Town Hall on March 6, 2018, between the hours of 10 o'clock in the forenoon and 7 o'clock in the afternoon, at which time the polls will close. Article 1, to hear and act upon the reports of the officers of the town for the past year.
I move to dispense with the entire reading of the warning.
Sheila Record has asked to dispense with a reading of the reports. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Article 2, to elect the following officers, a moderator for the ensuing year, and I'm running for moderator. Town clerk for a term of 3 years, Alan Fletcher. Would you like to speak, Alan? He does not wish to speak.
No, I'm finished.
Town treasurer and delinquent tax collector for a term of 3 years. Again, Alan Fletcher, and Alan does not wish to speak. One selectman for the term of 3 years, Christopher Martell.
Yeah.
Christopher?
Thank you. I'm just finishing my second 2-year term, and I've figured out that I'm nowhere near learning everything there is to know. And I thank all the people on the board for trying to keep me straight and helping. Linda did a lot of work this last year. We got grants for the playground, lots of new equipment for the kids to use, a lot more coming. And I want to thank Notch for running their day camp. We were in the town report, you'll find an article in there on what they did this year. I mean, there were some days we had 150 children. We had to feed them twice, but a lot of them don't get fed again that day. So that worked out well. I want to thank everybody in the town clerk's office. It just makes my job easier. I have way too many things to do, but then there's, keep pushing. Anyway, thank you for your vote. There's nobody running against me unless somebody's got a write-in campaign. So, anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Article 2E, one selectman for the term of 2 years. Sherry Paquette is running for that position. Sherry, would you like to speak?
For anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Sherry Paquette.
She's got the microphone.
For anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Sherry Paquette, and I really appreciate your vote.
Thank you. Article 2F, one auditor for the term of 3 years, and there's no one running for that position. Article 2G, one lister for a term of 3 years. Eric Collins is running. Eric, would you like to speak? Is he here? Okay. Is Eric coming?
Yes.
All Would you like to speak, Eric?
If I can lay anything but dinner. Still say if I can anything late for dinner.
So you're running for actually 3 offices, Lister, Town Grand Juror for a term of 1 year, and a Town Agent for a term of 1 year. Did you want to?
Sound busy, doesn't it?
It does.
Would you like to hear about them all now?
Sure.
No, that's not exactly Robert's rule, but I'll stick to it. Yes, I'm running for Lister again. And since I'm running unopposed, unless, who knows, there might be tons on the sidewalk tomorrow running for it. The CLA for this year is 103.56, which is darn close to perfect. So I don't think we'll be seeing any increase anytime soon. We have 1.7 million on our taxable grand list. So we're in pretty good shape. I'm running for town agent. Town agent is a darn near obsolete office. I think the legislature is looking at doing away with it. But town agent comes into play if you have papers that need to be signed that your select board has a conflict of interest with those papers, then you have to turn to a town agent to sign them on behalf of the select board. Grand juror is an office, again, that's near obsolescence in the annals of history. In the old days, the grand juror would go out and do all your criminal investigation. But nowadays, there's a lot of laws about such things, protecting the interest of the innocent and the guilty. So they have professionals do all that for you. And pretty much your select boards turn to attorneys for such things. So they're just little offices that sit there in time and they're on the books. And because they're on the books, you have to elect somebody and elect me. So thank you very much. Here you are.
Thank you, Eric. Article 2J, a first constable for a term of 1 year. Larry Carr is running. And Larry has a motion that he would not like to speak. 3 planning commission members for the term of 3 years is Article 2K. We have Mark Waterhouse. Is Mark here tonight? Would you like to speak? Mark does not wish to speak. Heather Skilling. Is Heather here? John Libby. Is John here? Article 3. Shall the town authorize the elimination of the office of town auditor with future audits to be provided by a public accountant licensed in this state in accordance with 17 VSA 2651BA? And we are going to vote on this tonight from the floor. All in favor? Oh, no.
I make a motion that we accept.
Oh, sorry. Okay, Sheila's made a motion to eliminate the office of town auditor with future audits to be provided by a public accountant licensed in the state.
You got a second.
I second it.
Sherry just seconded.
Sherry seconds the motion. Any discussion?
What prompted this article? Is it because no one is running for auditor?
You want to answer, Alan, or do you want me to?
Alan, would you like to answer or do you want Linda to answer?
Go ahead.
Well, nobody runs, but we have hired an outside auditor for the past, how many years? 5, 6? Who we pay plenty of money to do. And I don't think any of the auditors cared. I mean, I don't think any of them protested that we put it on the ballot, so it's just and it protects, us having the outside audit really protects our town and the town clerk because they're doing thorough, much more than a local auditor does. So we just figured it was a duplication of service, and then you couldn't get anybody to run anyway.
What does it cost?
Well, I think, what, $200 a piece? It's nothing. It's not even money. It's the fact that we have a professional audit done, and you can't get people to run for it. And then when you got a million write-ins with Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, and it just becomes kind of. So that's what prompted our decision to.
Thank you.
And I want to call the Secretary of State. We have to put it on the ballot and take it off. So that's why it's.
Are we ready to move forward with the vote? All in favor of removing or authorizing the elimination of the office of town auditor with future audits to be provided by a public accountant licensed in this state in accordance with 17 VSA 2651BA? Anyone opposed?
And just to let you know, if we stopped having an outside auditor, we would have to have auditors. You have to have them. It's not like we can say, oh, we're not going to do it at all. Just to make sure that.
The motion carried. Article 4. This is another article that we'll be voting for or voting on from the floor. Shall the town pay its 2018 municipal taxes and its 2018-19 education taxes to the town treasurer in 2 equal installments, with the first due on or before August 10th, 2018, and the second due on or before October 10th, 2018.
I make a motion that we accept this article as written.
Sheila has made a motion to accept the article as written. Is there a second? Joanne? Joanne seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? Pam Parsons?
What prompted this article?
It's in every year.
It's in there every year?
Yeah. We have to set a date to report taxes. It's always in there.
Are there any other questions? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Article 5. Shall the town authorize and empower the selectmen to borrow money on the credit of the town by note, town order, or otherwise in a sum sufficient to meet the current expenses of the town prior to the collection of its taxes and to meet any deficit of the town if the expenditures shall exceed the estimated revenues? And I can take comments on that article.
Your mic's not working. Your mic's not working. Just use it.
Did everybody hear me, or I guess my mic stopped working, so should I read it again?
It's on. It's talking about.
Hello? Okay. Shall the town authorize and empower the selectmen to borrow money on the credit of the town by note, town order, or otherwise in a sum sufficient to meet the current expenses of the town prior to the collection of its taxes and to meet any deficit of the town if the expenditures shall exceed the estimated revenues? I can take comments on this article. If there are no comments, I will move on to Article 6. Shall the town appropriate the following sums of money, and if so voted, to raise money on the grand list? Article 6A, $3,500 to the Richford Health Center Summer Day Camp Program. Is there someone representing that article? Pam Parsons, would you like to speak?
Yes, please. Thank you, Chris, for speaking to the day camp. We've had the camp over 20 years at the playground. And last summer, we did see running about 150 kids a day. We also support young high school kids by them receiving a job during the summer, and they get training through NCSS and Notch, and the training, it builds their resume, so they move on when they to other positions, other jobs as they get older. I'm just very appreciative of the town, the use of the playground and the support that the town has provided Notch over the years through the funding has helped us make this project every summer very successful. So I hope you support it. Thanks.
Thank you, Pam. Next, Article 6B, $4,847 to the Franklin County Home Health Agency Incorporated. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to that article? Article 6C, $150 to Green Up Vermont. Is there anyone here representing that article? We'll move on to 6D, $2,000 to the Richford Beautification/Image Committee. Rowena Brown will speak to this article.
I'd like to thank you for your support in the past years, and we're looking for $2,000 again this year. This is what we use to put the plants that we put out, the planters and the rungs, and the holiday decorations of the gazebo and the post office and the buildings. So we'd like to have your support, and anyone that has any time that would like to help us out, we're always looking for volunteers. We do this all volunteer work, and we try to keep Richford looking nice and doing things that will make Richford better. So thank you for your support.
Thank you, Rowena. Next is Article 6E, $1,000 to the Northwest Counseling and Support Services. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to that article? Move on to 6F, $500 to the Missisquoi River Basin Association. Is there anyone here representing that article? $1,000 to Operation Happiness is Article 6G. Is there anyone here representing Article 6G? Levi? Steamhelp?
Irish.
Irish.
Sorry.
Okay.
I don't like that much. Hi guys, I'm Irish, and I have been involved with Operation Happiness for a number of years. I think it's an amazing outreach project. This year we served 94 families, 213 kids in our community, providing Christmas presents along with food for those families. And we have roughly 22 volunteers throughout including the National Honor Society that came, so it was a really awesome time for our community to get together and find a way to help people less fortunate within our community. All of our donations come from Richford. We have a little bit from United Way. So other than that, everything that comes from this community stays in this community, and it's just a wonderful opportunity. So I would hope that we can count on your support again tomorrow. Thank you.
Does anybody have questions for Levi? We'll move on to 6H, $500 to the Vermont Adult Learning. Is there anyone here? Valerie?
Thank you for last year's support of $500 from the Adult Learning. And I'd like to report that we had 7 graduates from that classroom. And I'd like to thank you for supporting us again. But I'd also like to ask a question of how do the appropriations get dispersed? Do we have to apply for them? Do we have to come into the town clerk's office and ask for them? Or
I can't hear you. Can you hold
She's asking how the appropriations get dispersed for...
You just ask us for it, right?
do we have to come in and ask you for it?
Just tell Alan when you want it. If it passes, just tell Alan. Come in
Okay.
say, we need the display.
I never knew whether we got it last year or
A
not.
couple of people didn't come and pick up their things and we.
So that's what I want. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Valerie? Thank you, Valerie. $2,500 to the Richford Economic Advancement Corporation, or REAC. Is there anyone here to speak to that article? Beth?
I'd like to thank you all for your support last year, for supporting the appropriation for REACT. I think the project that we have done most recently is the Overlook Park across the road and tearing down the two buildings that were there. And then the park has been a project over time because all of the money we get either comes from this $2,500, that's it from the town, or from grants. And it takes time to write those grants. And there are some people here who work tirelessly. Joe and Darlene, Laura Obit. It's all volunteer work for people who have full-time jobs. So that are dedicated to the community and improving the community and economic opportunities here. So we would really appreciate your support by voting yes to this article tomorrow. Thank you.
Does anybody have questions for Beth? Pam?
Are you telling us when you apply for grants that you need matching money?
Yes. And usually we do in kind. We're often able to do volunteer work or things like that and we're creative, but we do need matching money. But this, will pay for our insurance. We need to pay insurance. And the golf tournament is the other major fundraiser that we do. So we would love your support for that too.
Thank you, Beth. Any other questions? We'll move on to, actually we're going to back up. I skipped one and I apologize. Article 6I, $500 to the Richford Conservation Commission. Is there anyone here to speak to that article? We will move on to Article 6K, $1,905 to the Green Mountain Transportation Agency. Is there anyone here to speak to that article? We'll move on to 6L, $100 to the Vermont Rural Fire Protection Task Force. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to that article?
I have a question. That's not, maybe nobody knows, that's not local, is it? Where does?
It's related to the dry hydrants and so forth.
Oh, okay.
Linda's question was, is that a local request? And Tim's response was, yes, it's related to the dry hydrants. Article 6M, $500 to the Vermont Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. Is there anyone here that would like to represent that article? Article 6N, $500 to Samaritan House. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to that article?
I can, if anybody else doesn't want to.
Okay, Linda will speak.
When they called and asked us to put them on the ballot, apparently there's several families, homeless children from Richford. So take that into consideration. This is their home, but they don't have a home.
Article 7. Shall the town vote the proposed 2018 budget in the amount of $2,349,201 to meet the expenses and liabilities of the town and authorize the selectmen to set a tax rate sufficient to provide for the same? I can take comments on this article. Does anyone have comments?
What was the amount last year?
In the book, what page is it on?
I've got it handy actually. Last year's amount was $2,239,247. So it's actually slightly
More.
$10,000,
But your
about.
tax rate is slightly less.
Rowena has a question?
I have a couple of questions I'd like to have just answers on. First one is on page 12, where you have a little credit considerations on district revenue for tax sales. And we're putting money aside for that with the select board, or Alan, could you explain, is this where the select board is looking to purchase properties that come up on tax sales that may need to be rehabbed or to just be torn down, so just to make the town look better? Is that why you increase that to?
What line are you saying? What's it called again?
It's under tax sales. It went from, it was budgeted for $2,500 this past year, and we got it, that we spent $14,000, a little over $14,000, we got $30,000 budgeted for this year.
Was that because we got stuck with a house? Well, nobody bids on it? Go ahead. I think that's what it is.
$14,000 you spent last year was the town purchased the property at tax sale. There was a significant delinquency between taxes and water and sewer, and nobody bid on the property at the auction. So if the town hadn't bought it, we wouldn't have collected the money. So now that the town bought the property, once the year and the day is over, the town can take title, sell the property, and we'll collect the money on it.
Did everyone hear Alan's answer?
So I think the question though is, now it's at 30s, are you preparing yourself for that to happen again?
Yes, because again, if nobody else bids on the property and the town doesn't, then we never collect the money from the homeowner.
Yeah.
The only way in some cases, unfortunately, the only way we can collect the money is to force it by buying the house, and if they know they're going to risk losing it,
They might pay.
taxes.
And if not, we can sell it.
Are there any other questions for Alan or anyone else on that article? Okay, Rowena's going to continue.
Okay, on the bridges and culverts, I see that we overspent this past year, and then we leveled funded it for the current year. Did we have a lot of problems that came up that we needed to address right away? Or did we just get a good deal and decided now this past year was the time to take care of it?
Are you saying that it's because we haven't collected all our grants yet?
Okay.
When the grants come in, am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. When the grants come in, they'll wash it out. Sometimes they don't come in time for town meeting, but we have them. They're already ours.
And then I have with the holiday celebrations, I see that we've increased that by $2,000 this year. We have new events that we're planning to do for the town.
Yes. Some residents have come to us and wanted to have a big celebration in the fall and add a lot to it to call in some tourists and do some business. So we increased it a little bit to accommodate. Maybe we were going to do an all day or an all weekend and street dance maybe, and the flea market. I mean, we started this year. Sherry headed up you want to talk about it?
Started back up and,
Wait just a minute, Sherry, I'll bring you
She
back.
started it back up again this year. We used to have it, and then we put the money out because we didn't have it anymore. So she started it, and some people want to expand it for a town event. Go ahead, Sherry. Tell them what you did this year.
we just started back up the fire auxiliary here in town. There's 4 of us on the committee right now, always looking for more people. But for a fundraiser for the fire department, we wanted to do something, so we did a fall festival that the town used to do. And we're just starting with it, our first year. But so many people want to become involved in it, so we'd like to be able to make it town-wide, so maybe we start bringing other towns to our town to celebrate what we have and what, to accent more of what our town is all about.
And spend money here.
That's what we're hoping to have a little more money to play into that.
And lastly, if, we have a lot of things with the animal control, and I just like to have the select board maybe share, with those of us here as to what the solution's been and how it's, what we're doing going forward.
Tell them about animal control.
Rowena's asking about the solutions that you've been working on for animal control.
Why they aren't on our appropriations list this year. You might have noticed they're not there.
Well, thank you, Rowena. You'll notice Article 6. In past years, there usually was a line in there for funding to go to Franklin County Animal Rescue. Franklin County Animal Rescue closed their doors last March, just about a year ago today. Since that time, they have reopened, and we do go into that in the town report. There's an article there about that. However, they're only accepting animals as they can get them in. Cats, 2-3 week waiting period until they find enough room for them. However, they do take cats from down south, and puppies from the puppy mills from southern states, but hard to don't tell. They have asked us for money this year, and we did not give it any. We have been doing business with Lamoille Kennels in Morrisville. They hold our dogs for 5 days. And then North Country Animal League in Morrisville checks the animals out, make sure they're okay. If they are, they take them to their facility, give them all the shots and medications that they need, and then they're put up for adoption at no charge to us. So any money that's given out this year will be given to North Country Animal League. I attended most of the meetings that Franklin County Animal Rescue Board of Directors had the past year. And it wasn't very transparent. They didn't want to talk about how they lost the money or whatever. So, they didn't give anybody a lot of good answers. But we just decided not to go there anymore. So, if anybody has questions on that, please ask. If you want to donate money to them, by all means, please do. That's up to you. But the town will not be taking any animals there as of now, or giving them. I believe we used to give them $500 or.
Well, plus, because we paid every time we took an animal down, in addition to our
Appropriation.
we had to pay every time we took an.
That's true, yeah.
And Lucille donated a lot of food.
So, the deal we have now is it works very well. Tracy Owen is our animal control officer. She has to drive them to Morrisville, but they provide excellent care for them. We've had no issues, so that's where we are with that. Anyone else?
Does anyone have any other questions about the 2018 budget?
You have a question, Carolyn?
Carolyn?
I would like to ask the water department, if there's anybody here, why does our water rate keep going up so drastically? I mean, our last water bill was so much higher.
Why does our water rate keep going up so drastically? I didn't think so either. But
It seems to me there ought to be a way of collecting all these delinquent water and sewer taxes.
But we do. When we have the tax sale in July, probably again, all of those water and sewer will go up for tax sale and then they'll get paid. Our water department's pretty, you can answer the money part of it, but all that stuff will go up just like the delinquent taxes. The water and sewer goes in too. So all those properties you see will be going up for tax sale if they don't pay. Over $1,000.
So why does the water rate keep going up so?
It hasn't.
It hasn't, the water rates were no higher than they were 3 years ago.
Huh.
There's been no change.
It's gone up.
Yeah, maybe you use more.
Yeah, I understand that.
I mean, Alan can answer that too. Have they gone up significantly?
Yeah, the water rate did not increase at all last year. The only thing that would account for a higher water bill would be the usage.
Yeah.
And, you know, as far as the delinquencies, we do the best we can with that. It's not as easy to collect delinquent water and sewer as it is property taxes.
So how can you keep letting people get away where they're delinquent taxes and water taxes and without shutting them off?
We don't. If you look at the dates on the delinquent taxes, you'll see that they're all 2017 with the exception of just a couple. So, and those only went delinquent last October. As far as the water and sewer, we do collect the money. It's usually a little bit late, but we do collect it because we can't do shut-offs in the winter because the ground is frozen. We can't get to the curb stops. And we don't want to shut people's water off anyway, because if they have hot water heat, we don't want their house to get cold, pipes to freeze. So when they get to a certain point, we do send them to tax sale. So we do collect the money. Nobody gets away with not paying their water and sewer bill. There's just a lag time between when they go delinquent and when they can collect it.
Okay.
And if you look at the taxes, you'll see a handful for the pastures. This is all just last year, and most of that will be paid before the tax sale.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions about the 2018 budget? If there are no other questions, we'll move on to Article 8, to transact any other proper business. Beth, you have a question or comment?
I would just like to thank Tim Green for his years of service to the Richford Select Board and for your years of service to REACT. You've done a lot of volunteering in our community and you've been very dedicated, and I appreciate it, and I'm sure several others do. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other comments? If there are no other comments, I would like to ask for a I would like to ask for a motion to recess until tomorrow at 10 a.m.
I'll make that motion.
Sheila's made the motion to recess till tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Do I have a second? Carolyn seconded the motion. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. We're now going to move on to the school portion of tonight's town meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and if everyone will stand, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The legally qualified voters of the Richford Town School District, Richford, Vermont, are hereby warned and notified to meet at the Richford Town Hall in Richford, Vermont on Monday, March 5th, 2018 at 7:00 p.m. to transact the following business. Articles 1 through 5 will be voted on by Australian ballot at the Richford Town Hall on Tuesday, March 6, 2018 between 10 o'clock in the forenoon, at which time the polls will open, and 7 o'clock in the afternoon, at which time the polls will close.
Move to dispense with the reading of the warning.
Sheila has moved to dispense with the reading of the warning. And Sherry has seconded that motion. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Article 1, to elect a moderator. And again, I'm running for moderator. And my name is Darlene Gregoire. Article number 2, to elect a school director for a term of 3 years. And Morton Greenwood is running for that post. Is Morton here? Article 3, to elect a school director for a term of 2 years. And there's no one running for that position.
Andy Pond was holding this position and wasn't going to run, but then he had a change of heart. So he's asked that you write him in as a candidate. Unfortunately, couldn't be with us. So Andy Pond for this 2-year term.
So if you'd like to write in Andy Pond's name for a 2-year term as a school director, he would like to be considered. Article 4, shall the voters authorize the school directors to transfer $100,000 of the undesignated fund balance from the 2016-2017 fiscal year into the capital project fund. Article 5, shall the voters of the school district approve the school board to expend $5,978,592, which is the amount the school board has determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year. It is estimated that this proposed budget, if approved, will result in education spending of $12,147 per equalized pupil. This projected spending per equalized pupil is 5.34% lower than spending for the current year. Article 6, to transact any other non-binding business thought proper. And I was asked to mention that our representative Chuck Pierce is not feeling well this evening and could not attend tonight's town meeting. But if you have any questions for him, you could contact him by phone, and he'd be happy to respond.
Darlene?
Yes.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank Wally Steenhauer for his 8 years of service to the school board. There's been a lot of meetings, especially in the recent past, and Wally has done a great job serving his community. So I just wanted to thank him and acknowledge him.
Thank you. Thank you, Wally. Does anybody else have questions or comments?
Is the tax rate going up on the school? The tax rate will be going up for varying reasons. Eric Collins mentioned the CLA. The CLA went from 112% to 103, which means our houses are selling for closer to appraised value, which I don't understand the math, but it actually will cause the tax rate to go up some. And the state is running a deficit. They covered it last year by moving some funds around, but the education fund is short, so that's going to drive it up a little bit. And part of it is the incentives that they've thrown around for all these mergers that are going on. I think they said that they had more people take them up on those, or more towns voted for it, so they had a greater expense there to cover those tax incentives that they offered.
So what are we looking at for an increase in percentage?
Morgan, can you speak to the increased percentage?
Morgan is not a resident of Richford. Does anybody have objections to him speaking?
Morgan is a business manager for the SU.
So the projected tax rate in Richford for the residential property is about 6.5 cents. To kind of put into perspective some of the things that Wally had pointed out, if the CLA was the only number that had changed, your tax rate would have gone up 9 cents. So that's by far the biggest driver of this year's tax increase. The next biggest driver is the projection we're getting from the legislature on how much money they're going to be putting in. Wally mentioned that, I think you had said that there was, last year they had spent a lot of one-time money to hold the tax rates down. That money is all gone, and so the governor has been out very early saying that towns across the state should be anticipating on average a 9-cent increase from that. The budget that this board has brought forward, as well as the increase to the number of students in the school, both are helping to drive that tax rate down. And if those are the only things that were happening this year, your tax rate would probably be down in nickel a little bit more.
Are there any other questions or comments? Linda?
I'm sorry I didn't get to read this, even though it's been sitting on my desk for a week. I just haven't had a chance. I want to know if you're going to renew the contract of the SRO, School Resource Officer, because I really think it's a good idea.
We've budgeted for it. As much as it, we're sympathetic, we all don't want our taxes to go up. I think we need to, convey a little bit of, and thank Beth. Beth is very fiscally frugal when it comes to operating the school. She has done a lot with our, to keep everything cost under control. And we have this item on here for the capital reserve fund. One of the things that we want to do this year with the money, with this capital reserve money and some of the money we're projecting to be left in the budget, is to replace a lot of the windows, if not all of the windows at the high school, because they're the original windows. In the winter, they're cold, and in the summer, the fall, it's brutally hot, especially on the tennis court side of the gym, the school. So we think we're going to have enough money to do that. Last year, with money left over in the budget, we were able to, chinking? Or re-grout, re-cement a good portion of the gym, especially the weathered side, which needed it. Beth is also, with money left in the budget, is upgrading the intercom system at the elementary school. So Beth does a lot with what's in the budget and makes a lot of stuff happen, and she should be commended for that.
Thank you, Wally.
One more question.
Yes, ma'am.
I read in the paper, or I heard, I got picked on, about our water, because that I have not heard anything about water. Is there a problem with the elementary school, and are we fixing it? And what is the problem?
I think Beth is the one to speak to the specifics of that.
I have not heard anything.
So the Department of Health picked certain schools around the state of Vermont that were built in a certain time frame. And Richford Elementary School was built in the late 60s. And they did the testing for free. And there were 2 types of water samples done. There were first draw in the morning. And what they were testing for there to see if it was in the faucet.
Is this lead?
Yes, for lead. And then they let the water run, and then they did a second draw. Most of our numbers went down. 1 part per billion is the allowed amount per state, which at the state level, which you can probably get that coming out of the ground. 15 parts per billion is what's allowed at the federal level. Most of our numbers were within that once the water came raining. And so we have replaced most of the water fountains, all the water fountains we could with the filter. Those were fine. The 1989 wing, the newer wing, was fine. It was some of the older faucets that hadn't been replaced. And we had 1 or 2 faucets in the old building that had been replaced, and those numbers were fine. So Gary showed, we're fortunate to have Gary, who worked for the water department for a long time. and I spoke with somebody from the health department, and they agree with Gary that it's probably faucets. We're not drinking out of those at all, out of those faucets.
Are you gonna replace them?
The plan is to replace them, but our first step was, we haven't replaced those water fountains when you first walk in to the left and right, because they're recessed into the wall. But Gary did find some water bottle fillers that are filtered, that take everything out, but they won't have the drinking apparatus. But those, we've already ordered one to make sure they're gonna fit into the wall. And then, if it fits, we're gonna order the other one. And then the next thing we're doing is the pop filler in the kitchen, because that number was high, but once we ran it, it was fine. But we want to replace that, and then we'll be replacing, nobody's drinking out of the faucets in the kitchen, in the classrooms, in the old classrooms. But the plan will be to be replacing them one by one. But since people don't drink out of them, they usually use them only for washing hands and cleaning up. It's not a top priority.
So it's not the water, it's the pipe.
Right, they don't think it's even the pipe, they think it's the faucet.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Are there any other questions or comments? If there are no more comments, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Or actually, a motion to recess until tomorrow at 10 a.m. Sheila's made the motion to recess until tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Is there a second?
Sure.
Linda seconds the motion. All in favor? Anyone opposed? See you tomorrow.